It's important to think of how deaf and hard of hearing artists can be included, because we are in the position of having this invisible disability. Provide us with a sign language interpreter and the playing field is leveled. Provide us with the same sorts of access that you provide other people with disabilities and the playing field is leveled and there's no more disability. But again, we walk on the street and people walk right by us and don't recognize that we have a disability until it's time to talk. And that's when the communication barrier becomes evident. It's a difficult challenge to overcome, to work out. But it's my hope that with this coalition and with this initiative and campaign that we can open people's minds and open people's eyes, not only your ears. Your eyes, your minds need to be opened to removing the barriers of ignorance and fear that have hampered us. I'd like to talk just a little bit about myself, my work on Sesame Street for 32 years as a cast member, a regular cast member on that show. I joined that cast in the 1970s at a time when it was unheard of, and I will forever owe a gratitude of debt to Sesame Street for having the courage to cast a deaf actor and keep me employed and keep me visible for 32 years. I'm humbled and I'm grateful for that opportunity and for the effect that it has had throughout the television world. Many people saw sign language for the first time on that show. Many people saw a deaf person living an everyday life for the first time on that show. A deaf person integrated into everyday mainstream life. I'm very grateful for that. They provided sign language interpreters for me. It's very important to understand that the responsibility for that is on the producer. And Sesame Street didn't even ask a question. I said that's what I needed, and that's what they gave me. Every time I was there, all day, 12-hour shooting days, there were no questions asked. There was always an interpreter that allowed me full access to socialize with the cast when we weren't shooting, to exchange ideas, to do what actors do. I had an interpreter there all the time, and the interpreter was not there for me, it was there for everybody else. And in talking about inclusion, it's my hope that what began on Sesame Street will continue, that the children who saw my character on Sesame Street were inspired to consider learning sign language and to consider befriending deaf people. And for all of the people whose minds were open enough. Children who saw that show have grown up to become interpreters, who have grown up to become advocates in the deaf community, have grown up to learn that sign language is a valid language just like French or Spanish or any other language. The impact from that has been tremendous and positive. And we're in our second generation of adults now who had that exposure. And again, I commend that show, and I will always be grateful to Sesame Street for showing deafness and sign language before it was fashionable. American Sign Language is the third most commonly used language in the United States. Not everybody knows that. I mentioned that I've been in and out of performers with disabilities, and the reason that that's happened is because I've established a theater company here in Los Angeles, Deaf West Theater Company. I've collaborated in establishing that. It was a local residential theater company, but we've grown to an international scale with the production of Big River. We've been able to collaborate creatively with our productions. It's not only a sign language theater company for people that know sign language. We've been able to bridge the two worlds between people who are deaf and people who can hear as artists and allow mainstream audiences exposure to our language. And it's my hope that Deaf West Theater will be a model for other theater companies around the country to open their minds and hire deaf and hard of hearing actors. Not only for deaf and hard of hearing roles, but also non-traditional casting. I'm also hoping that theater and film pick up the baton and do that kind of casting as well. We have a lot to offer to the creativity of those media. Thank you again for having me here and for allowing my voice to be heard in my native language, which I'm so proud of. There are 28 million deaf and hard of hearing people in America, and I want to continue to encourage us all to work together collaboratively and cooperatively. This is the sign. Let me see you do it. This is the sign. We want to join together. This is what it means when we're in relationship with one another. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Our next speaker is best known for her role as Cousin Jerry on the NBC sitcom The Facts of Life. She was the first person with a disability to have a regular role in a primetime series. She has since appeared in the Emmy Award-winning movie Two of a Kind and the HBO hit series Deadwood. Welcome, Jerry Jewell.
Thank you. Oh, thank you so much. I am so honored to be here today, and I'm a PWD, and I'm proud of it. You know, when I was a little kid, I'm the last of the baby boomer generation. And when I was a child, I was not mainstreamed. I am a survivor of special ed. And I always dreamt that I would be included in the community, in life. And when I was a kid, I was ridiculed a lot and made fun of and mimicked. I couldn't go 2 feet away from my house without running into kids who were mimicking my movements and my speech. And laughter hurt. And at a very young age, I discovered Carol Burnett. I mean, I didn't personally discover her. But I used to watch the Carol Burnett show, and I thought, wow, what an incredible sense of humor this woman has about herself. That's how I can turn laughter around. And I started writing Carol when I was 13. Dear Carol Burnett, when I grow up, I want to be you. I want to be a comedian. I want to be an actress. I want to be a writer. And by the way, I have cerebral palsy. What do you think? And Carol always wrote me back whenever she could. And the essence of every letter that I ever received from her was always the same. Go for it. Get into acting in every capacity. She told me there was no guarantee that I would become professional. She said there's no guarantees in life, period. The important thing is to put out the effort and to try. How does anyone know what they can do unless they try? And I can't tell you how much that impacted my life coming from Carol Burnett.